What's going on, guys? PXCam20 back again with a brand new video. We are here at the Lago Maggiore GP circuit, but the reverse edition. As you see, we are starting in 6th place with the 157.2. I've been trying all day to try to bring it down to the 156, but it's just very difficult, and I have not been able to do it. Anyways, before we jump into the video, if you guys haven't yet, we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year. We actually already reached halfway through that goal, so thank you guys very much. If you guys like the content, subscribe down below, leave a like on the video as it really helps out the channel. And yeah, let's jump straight into these races. So jumping into our race here, we're counting down 3, 2, 1, and we are starting our first race here at Lago Maggiore, as we are behind the Porsche, starting in 6th. Jumping into turn number 1, we try to stay behind the Porsche and not make a mistake. It is very easy to go very wide, clip the grass and spin out. We get into turn number 1 very cleanly. As we head into turn number 2 and 3, we are staying behind the Porsches right ahead of us, as we are staying single file line. And the best thing you want to do on this race is just try to stay behind these guys, because if you can keep it on the track, trust me, you're gonna be able to make up a few positions, as many cars end up just spinning out or crashing, as you can see ahead of us right now. Things start to kick off as 4th and 5th actually make a little bit of contact, and the Renault goes off onto the grass. We're able to make a very easy overtake heading into turn number 2 and into turn number 3. We fast forward here as we start heading into the S's. That's going to lead us into the hairpin. 4th goes a little bit wide, clips the grass, goes out and gets RKO'd by the wall, and we are able to get 4th position in a blink of an eye. So now we're up into 4th, coming to turn lap number 3, and 3rd place actually does the exact same thing. As we head into the S's, we have to brake very early, as we risk almost running into the Renault, as for some reason they unghosted him right in front of us. So we got very lucky not hitting him, and the 3rd place guy got really lucky that we didn't make contact with him, as we braked as soon as we saw that the ghosting stopped on his car. So coming into this, I guess you would call it these S's right here, the Renault actually takes an inside line, but we back out of the move there. It's going too wide into this place. It's going to basically spell disaster. As you see, the car behind us almost makes contact with us from the mini-map on the bottom right, and we're able to kind of just stay alongside with the Renault, but we get bumped from behind, so we get a little bit of wide of an exit coming into this left-hander. We're going side by side as the car next to us actually backs out of the move. We brake as late as we can, clip the apex, and we're able to maintain 4th coming out of the left-hander. So now we're going to try to do it best as we can to try to catch up to the Renault in 3rd, so we can try to at least finish in the podium here. Jumping into the final lap, coming into the same spot that we were in the lap previous. Final few turns, we are trying to stay ahead of 5th place, as we're not going to be able to catch up to the Renault and get that podium. Brake as late as we can, come into the final 2 corners. Hit the apex very early, try to keep it as wide to the, or narrow to the right as we can. We're able to maintain the position, almost hit the wall coming out of the final turn, and we are able to get 4th place. So not too bad of a first race there, as a couple of stuff popped off, but we were able to gain a few positions, jumping from 6th to 4th. So now let's jump into our second race. So coming into the second race, we are actually starting in 4th. So a few of the faster cars ahead of us actually left the lobby, so we were able to gain a few positions here. So the main focus here and objective is going to try to be to get 3rd. As we head into the first turn again, you see United States ahead of us gets a little bit loose as we're trying to catch up to him now. We're almost right behind him on the back bumper, heading into turn number 2, and the top 3 right now are all taking very different lines going into turn number 3. As we're trying to make a move on the inside of the United States, we go very narrow going into that turn right there. We try to stay onto the inside of him, but he gets a really good exit coming out of the turn, and we fall right behind him into the slipstream as we come into these little S's going into the hairpin. Now coming into the hairpin right here, we're able to catch up a little bit more onto United States. We brake very late as United States hits a really early, narrow entrance coming in, which gives him a really bad exit. And now we're starting to catch up to him as we're on his slipstream, heading down the straightaway that's going to lead us into the windy section of the racetrack. We're gaining a little bit of ground on him, but I don't think we're going to have enough to try to at least look for an overtake, as we just fall right behind him, heading into the windy section. We head into the right-hander right here as we brake very early, so we can try to keep it on the racetrack, clip the apex, heading into the final right-hander of the windy section. And now we're going to try to catch up to United States. We lose a couple ground to United States as the top 2 actually make a little bit of contact, and the R8 goes a little wide as he gets bumped out. He's going to try to get back onto the racetrack, gets back onto the racetrack. He loses 2 position, and that invites us to try to at least make an overtake coming to the final few corners here. We try to look into the inside, but we're a little too far back. We break very, very late there. We almost miss our apex there as we try going into the final 3 corners, hitting the apex right there. Try to get as wide as we can. Come into this turn, break very, very late. We almost make contact with the R8 and almost lose it there. As we come into the final turn, go take a very narrow line. As you can see, it's 5th place is now pressuring us going into turn number 1. Heading down the straightaway, turn 5th place is actually looking onto the inside as we try to make a wide entrance going in. And 5th place actually makes an overtake right there, makes a very, very daring and amazing overtake. I actually have to go back and look at that twice because it was a very, very optimistic overtake that he made there. But he made a stick, and I applaud him for that because that's a really, really difficult place to make the overtake done. So we lose 4th place there as we jump up into lap number 3, and you see 4th and 3rd are actually fighting with each other. So that's going to hopefully give us the invitation to at least catch up to them and probably fight with them for at least a podium. As you can see, they're both heading side by side into this windy section of the track. Right before the yellow rumble strip starts, we can turn right into the first turn of this technical part. You see 4th and 3rd are still fighting side by side and almost making contact with each other as we head into the final part of this windy section, leading us into, I guess you would call this a hairpin, but leading us into a left-hander. So fast forward here, you see they actually are still bumping and grinding onto the final corners. As we come into the final lap, the R8 actually clips the grass, so that invites us to kind of catch up to him as we head into the final 2 turns. Getting a little closer to the R8, we clip the grass a little bit, and he actually makes contact with the wall, and I'm gonna make the biggest mistake of the race. I thought this was the final lap, so I decided to celebrate in style, and then I realized it was not the final lap. So we lose 5 positions coming into the final lap now. And we're right behind 7, so we're gonna try to get close to him. He breaks very, very early there, so you see we got caught up to him and are in position to make a good overtake. Coming into the left-hander here, he breaks early, and we actually make contact with him. I am so sorry for that, guys. I am so sorry to all the GT Sport gods. I have made a mess of myself for making this ramming situation happen. And again, guys, I'm so sorry for being the worst rammer on GT Sport. So we have to kind of keep moving on here as we lose a position to the Porsche. We try to stay right behind him as we come into the final few corners, brake very, very late, get a really wide exit or entrance going into that turn, and the 7th place actually gets a little loose, so the Porsche is now holding his line as we come into the final 2 turns. He brakes very, very late, gets a really wide entrance and a wide exit coming into the final corners. We try to get him on the final corner. We actually make a little bit of contact with him. Luckily, he doesn't run into the wall. Almost turned into 2 takeouts in one race. So luckily, we did not turn into an ultimate ram god, but finished in 8th. Probably could have finished in 4th if we didn't spin out for that early pre-celebration. So remember, guys, don't celebrate early whenever you guys are doing these races. Just finish the race. So jumping into our last race now, we are right behind this gaggle of cars ahead of us, starting in 5th position in the R8, and we're actually trying to catch up to the Renault as actually nothing really happens on lap number 1. So jumping into lap number 2, we're right behind the Renault, and he gets a little loose coming out of that turn, heading into the S's. It's going to lead us into the hairpin. We're staying right behind him, trying to get a good entrance and exit coming out of here so we can try to make a move on the hairpin, but we are unable to gain ground as we head into the hairpin. Brake very, very early so we don't make contact with the Renault. The Renault actually gets a really bad exit, so we're able to capitalize on that, get a really good run coming out of that hairpin, and we're on the inside of the Renault coming into the windy section of the racetrack. He gets a little bit better of a run coming out down the straightaway, so we actually have to back out of there so we don't make contact with him. Jumping into the final few corners of this windy part, the Renault gets a little bit on the grass, and that leads us into the grass, so we both kind of get a little bit loose coming into the left-hander here. There you can see 3rd place has a penalty, so we might be able to catch up to him. Coming to the left-hander here, we brake very, very early so we don't make contact with the Renault. Catching up to him just a little bit, ever so slightly, and we actually lose a little bit of traction coming out of that corner. And you can see 3rd place loses time there as he has to serve his penalty. So now we're right behind him and the other Renault. coming into the final few corners. They're going side by side. Actually get a little bit loose right there as they almost make contact. We're trying to make a move on the inside, brake very, very late, and almost make contact with the Supra, but the Supra actually lets us, or we give the Supra space so he can make a entrance into that corner. He actually gets a 1 second penalty, so we're able to at least catch up to him a little bit there, and we might be able to make another overtake going into the next lap. So now we're getting challenged for 6th place as we head into turn number 1. We let the Brazilian have the position there, and we follow right behind him on the slipstream heading into turn number 2. So nothing really happens throughout the rest of the lap number 3, and the Supra has to serve his penalty, and we try to make a move on the outside, brake very, very late. We're heading side by side as we head into the final few corners here. Kind of give the Supra some space there as we try to probably do a cutback coming into the final 2 turns, and we are unable to make that successful as we are a little too far back. So we get a wide exit coming into the final corner, heading into the straightaway, so we can try to get a good exit, but it doesn't happen as well as we're now getting pressured for 6th place. We try to make a move on the inside and cover that spot, defended while we head into turn number 1. We get bumped a little bit, and that actually propels us a little closer to the Supra ahead of us as the Supra hits the grass. And you see right behind us, I think the car actually got a penalty for that. So sorry about that, man. It's just the GT penalty system, you know, doing its thing. So coming into turn number 4, I believe, we're right behind the Supra still, heading into this S section that's going to lead us into the hairpin. He's still clipping the grass, so not sure if he's just losing a lot of grip or just trying to take wider entrances into these turns as he keeps clipping the grass. Coming out of that turn, we almost lose it heading into the hairpin, brake very, very late. And we are able to keep the car under control heading into the hairpin for the final time. You see the car behind us is starting to gain closer and closer to us, and he actually makes a little bit of contact with us. So we are able to get propelled a little more further as we head into the slipstream of 5th place. Coming to the windy section of the racetrack, we are heading to the first 2 turns. Almost lose it right there. Brake very, very early so we can try to make up some ground on the Renault. And we are able to make a little bit of ground on the Renault coming to the final few turns. That leads us into the left-hander hairpin. Catching up to the Renault right there. Brake very, very late. Make a wide entrance heading us off of the left-hander. We're still trying to catch up to him as we fast forward here heading into the final few corners. Are we going to be able to make anything up on the Renault? And we aren't. So we are going to finish this race in 6th place, which is not too shabby because this track is one of probably my worst tracks on this game, as I really struggle on this track. But anyways, very, very entertaining racing, really clean racing except for that one ram that I had. If you guys really enjoyed the video, please subscribe down below and leave a like again. And again, I just want to leave a huge thank you to everybody who has been watching and supporting my channel. This makes it so much more funner when I do this type of videos and you guys are just enjoying them and watching the videos and just commenting down below and everything like that. So thank you again for all the support that you guys are giving me. I hope to see you guys on the next video. See you guys next time. Peace.